eye of the beholder.
Last year, around this time, I said 2016 was one of the best years for video gaming ever, and wait a minute. Is anyone else getting a sense of deja vu? Hold up. Let's rewind and take a quick look back. Last year, around this time, I said 2015 was quite frankly one of the best years for video gaming ever. Little did I know, the following year of 2016 would trump it in almost every way possible. 2016 for me has been the best year ever for video games that I've ever experienced. The amount of stunning and worthy sequels to franchises old and new, the brand new IPs, the amazing innovations, the excellent DLC and expansions. 2016 is the year in video gaming where video games showed off their peak perfection in quality and quantity of content. An absolute joy to experience firsthand. And like last year in 2015, where I said that it was one of the most difficult videos I've ever had to make because there were so many good games that came out that year, this year was no exception. If anything, it was more difficult than ever before. Having to pick only 10 of the amazing, breathtaking, revolutionary, and most importantly, incredibly enjoyable video game experiences that came out in 2016? Hell of a challenge, needless to say. Yeah. 1 year later, and there's not much new I can add here. 2017 in video gaming, just like the year before in 2016, and the year before that, and the year before that have simply been absolutely phenomenal years for video gaming. The innovations, the brand new one-of-a-kind unique experiences, the childhood dreams and fantasies brought to life by this industry, by this medium, by this art. It's been an absolute privilege on my part to record, to absorb, to document, to be involved with the absolute revolution and evolution that is video games. And now, it's time to share with you my obligatory end-of-the-year countdown list of my favorite video games that I had the pleasure to experience in the year 2017. These are my absolute most favorite videos to make on my YouTube channel. They are some of the best, if not the best videos I have ever made, and I hope I can add this video to that roster. And with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, these are my top 10 favorite video games of 2017. Number 10. Nioh. Nioh is what happens when you take the Dark Souls formula, a fantastical retelling of historical feudal Japan, a deep, dynamic, versatile melee combat system, and one of, if not the best, gear and loot systems in a video game ever, then take all of that and masterfully weave it together to create one of the best hack-and-slash action RPGs of all time. From start to finish, Nioh made me feel as if I was playing an instant classic. Nioh's vast arsenal of weapons, alongside all the varying special attacks and moves that you can learn as you level up and upgrade, and alongside that, its stance system, allowing you to make high, medium, and low strikes, allows for so much variety and strategy and tactics and replayability with the combat, and that's alongside its magic system, all the varying special items you can use. Oh, and the special bonuses and the super attack you get with your guardian spirit, and there's just so much more. Nioh is such a deep game and offers so much quality content to the player, it's staggering. On top of that, there's the fairly excellent level design, with collectibles and secrets hidden about all over. And then there's the vast array of enemy types that patrol those levels. Enemies that follow the same combat rules as the player, with different stances, a certain amount of stamina. And the enemies themselves are so varied and dynamic from human to demon. And I just love how Nioh was constantly throwing new stuff at me. Level to level, oh, here's a brand new weapon or piece of armor. Here's a brand new enemy. Here's a brand new puzzle or shortcut that's specific to this level. Here's a brand new mechanic, a brand new character. It was almost overwhelming at times how generous Nioh is with quality content. I always had something to play for, to strive for, to look forward to, especially when it came to the absolutely excellent loot system, which is constantly rewarding the player with new and better gear, new weapons and armor, and allowing you to fully customize and upgrade those individual pieces of armor and weapons. Oh, the loot system, I cannot get over how good it is. Its loot, its gear, its grinding, its RNG is better than in most games that are focused around a loot system like looter shooters. Oh, and I have to mention the absolutely excellent boss battles, which are all unique, varied, challenging, but fair, visually striking and creative, but most importantly, fun to fight and overcome. There is very little wrong with Nioh. The only flaw I could possibly weigh against it is its story and storytelling, and its almost criminal lack of character development for certain characters. But despite the story, the plot, the characters leaving a lot to be desired, Nioh even makes up for it with its atmosphere and its setting, and its immense amount of lore, which is all documented and you can read up on in a lengthy and well-documented, well-presented codex. So even the moments in the story that I didn't fully understand or felt like I was missing something, I could always just head over to the codex to fill me in, learn the backstory of certain characters, rewatch a cutscene. And I have to stop myself here, or I could just keep going on and on about all the things Nioh does right and how good of a game Nioh is. But with everything that's been presented, I think I've made a good enough case as to why Nioh is one of my favorite games of 2017. Number 9. Resident Evil 7. I've always been an admirer of the Resident Evil video game franchise, but never a true fan. I've always seen them as and enjoyed them as quirky third-person shooter Japanese action games. I never really understood or saw the appeal of survival horror from Resident Evil. But with Resident Evil 7, I see the full, realized potential of Resident Evil as true survival horror. Resident Evil 7 is a really well-crafted game. From the brilliant, detailed visuals and how they are able to produce a haunting and memorable atmosphere through its environments and level design, to the excellent pacing of story and progression, alongside a sense of discovery and exploration. Discovering the mystery of what's happened here on the Baker estate. Searching every nook and cranny for resources, collectibles, puzzle pieces, or even brand new weapons. And despite Resident Evil 7 having elements of action, what with having enemies to shoot and boss battles to overcome, it never sacrifices or betrays the core survival horror experience it's presenting to you. Because every combat encounter, every boss battle is not a moment of pure over-the-top action, it's a battle of survival. Like any good survival horror video game, every shot, every move you make, every resource consumed or wasted matters. Your actions have consequences. You, the player, can screw up and put yourself in a bad situation. And that's another excellent aspect of Resident Evil 7, that perfect balance of difficulty. You're no action hero, and your enemies aren't no pushovers. Oh, and what excellent enemies you are up against. The Baker family have easily become some of the most memorable characters in video gaming, in horror video games, for their disturbing and threatening and entertaining personalities, to several memorable set-piece moments of both horror and action, and their fairly excellent boss battles. Resident Evil 7 even does a decent job with its story, having what I find to be just the right amount of intrigue and mystery and character development, as well as discoverable and collectible backstory, to add just enough depth, just enough character to the world and the people for me to care to see how this all ended. And of course, Resident Evil 7 being a pure survival horror video game, it has its share of horror, it has its share of scares, both in its creepy and disturbing atmosphere, to several shocking moments with the Baker family, to some clever and well-timed jump scares, and moments of pure dread in anticipation and build-up towards the scare. Resident Evil 7 nails horror, and when it comes to its gameplay, it's able to find just the right balance between weight and smooth responsive controls. Resident Evil 7 doesn't fall into the trap of clunky game and control design, making it feel like you're fighting the controls and trying to move a tank. While this horrible monstrosity is trying to kill you, it finds the right balance of weight and smooth responsiveness in the controls in the gameplay to make the movement and the shooting and the melee and the stealth fun. Resident Evil is a scary video game. Resident Evil is a fun video game. Resident Evil is a really well-crafted video game that I can see myself coming back to again and again. It's easily one of my favorite and one of the best games of 2017. Number 8. Prey. Yet another excellent entry into the immersive sim video game genre. Prey not only provides a captivating and creative sci-fi narrative and setting, but one of the best and most realized locations and environments in all of video gaming with the Talos 1 space station. Uncovering the stories and the many mysteries, the multiple series of events that transpired on Talos 1 is not only immensely engaging, but immensely fun. Talos 1 is such a well-realized location with so much effort and detail crafted into every room and section of the station that it feels real. Despite the stylized art style of the visuals in Prey, Prey can be one of the most immersive and engaging video game experiences you have. Because of the Talos 1 space station, because of the characters that occupy it, who are not simple one-dimensional characters. There's depth, there's backstory, there's relationships between all these characters. But story and characters can only do so much for a game. Luckily for Prey, it has its excellent gameplay to help bolster an already strong experience. Prey can easily be considered and interpreted as an RPG, a true role-playing experience, which is one of the reasons I love Prey so much, the complete and total freedom it gives to you, the player. To play how you want to play, to do what you want to do. Do you want to build and level up your character solely around melee with the wrench? Perhaps you want to focus more on using the different alien superpowers you can obtain. Perhaps you want to play this more like a first-person shooter. Maybe you want to play this as a pure stealth experience. Maybe you want to kill every single NPC you meet and loot their stuff. And Prey takes into account all of this, how you want to play, how you interact with all the different side characters, how you level up and build your character, and bases the story and the ending of the game around that. That's one of the things that's so awesome and so refreshing about Prey, that total freedom, that total sense of you, the player, being in control. Control not being taken away from you. And this makes Prey so replayable. I've replayed this game so many times and played it in so many different ways. And all the different ways you get to play the game are genuinely fun, whether it's stealth, combat, the alien superpowers? Oh yes, and then there's the aliens themselves, the Typhon, which make for imposing, challenging, and memorable adversaries. Whether it's the already iconic Mimic enemy that can transform and disguise themselves as almost any prop in the environment, adding this real sense of horror and dread as you scout your environment for anything that looks out of place like it could be a Mimic. Or the Phantoms, which make for intimidating looking foes that are immensely satisfying to take down, to the Technopaths and Telepaths that add their own unique challenges, utilizing other NPCs and the environment against you, all the way to the big bad mini-boss-like Nightmare. I love the Typhon. The Typhon are not only awesome-looking aliens, but they give Prey as a whole its own unique feel and identity, on top of all the other really unique things that Prey does to make itself unique and distinct from other video games. From the endless usefulness of weapons and tools like the glue gun, the recycling grenade, And just the whole recycling and crafting mechanics, with all the different resources and items, adding for so much more replayability and possibilities. Prey is just so good. I love Prey so much. From graphics to gameplay to story. I just had to list Prey as one of my favorite games of 2017.
I need a suit.
Number 7. Ecco. Ecco is many things. It's beautiful, it's haunting, it's a sci-fi epic, but it's also a subtle character story, character-driven narrative. It is a story-based, story-focused video game, but it's also a puzzle-heavy video game. It's a puzzle game. It's also a stealth-heavy video game. It's a stealth video game. It's subtle, it's grand, it's smart, it's exciting, it's deep, it's meaningful, it's beautiful. It's Ecco. Ecco is in many ways a true form of high art, of pure and classic science fiction, with some of the best damn voice acting and some of the most well-developed characters I've ever had the pleasure of meeting in a video game. While Ecco being a video game, the gameplay itself is also innovative and creative, cleverly merging puzzle and stealth gameplay and intelligent AI opponents? That, and this is the main selling point of the game, learn from you and adapt and evolve from you and your actions, which made for some of the most memorable, the most intense, the most exhilarating, and at times the most nerve-wracking gameplay I've ever experienced in a video game. Having to plan out your every move, your every action, and picking and choosing what gameplay mechanics you want to use in the game for you to complete objectives and solve puzzles while making sure your enemies don't learn from you too much. Learn your mechanics, all your different actions and abilities to use against you. For example, do you risk sprinting through a level to get to where you need to go faster and run past enemies, only for the AI to learn how to sprint, and now you have to worry about your stamina while the AI is running after you? Or perhaps, do you risk shooting and killing an enemy with your gun to get yourself out of a difficult situation right now, only for the AI to learn how to use and fire a gun, making the rest of the level far more deadly and difficult? It's these mental conundrums, these mental puzzles you play with yourself, while you're also trying to solve the in-game mechanical puzzles of Ecco, is what makes the gameplay so unique and memorable, special, one of a kind. There is so much to fall in love with Ecco. Its brilliant duo of characters and how they grow and work off of one another, N and London. They are such well-developed characters and so well voice-acted, I will remember these characters till the end of time. Its sci-fi narrative and setting is so classic, yet so grand. The same can be said for the visuals. Ecco just looks so beautiful. Ecco is so beautiful. Ecco is not only a sci-fi masterpiece in terms of art, but a sci-fi masterpiece in terms of a video game. This was always going to be one of my favorite games of 2017. Number 6. Little Nightmares. I love this game. I really do love this game. Little Nightmares is able to be simultaneously haunting, yet charming. Dark, yet childlike. Its visuals, its graphics, its art style, its lighting are all perfect, and they create this atmosphere, this environment that is authentically beautiful and disturbing. But besides how absolutely gorgeous the game looks, Little Nightmares is a 3D puzzle platformer, and it exceeds at doing so. The controls are tight, fluid, and responsive, but have the right amount of weight that they give the playable character, the little girl 6, the sense and feeling of being alive and a part of this world. And it is so masterfully crafted and paced that the environmental design works with and encourages your controls and mechanics. Does it look like you can crawl into that little hole? You most likely can. Does it look like you can grab hold of and climb up that thing? You probably can. I also really love the puzzles. The puzzles weren't so insultingly simple that a toddler can solve them, and they weren't so mind-numbingly complex that I needed to look up a guide. The puzzles made sense, utilizing the environment, gravity, pushing or pulling or climbing on top of objects, using physics. It all works so well. However, Little Nightmares is also, in many ways, a horror game, able to spin and craft and tell a dark and intriguing story without anyone uttering a single word or having to read a line of text. I was really impressed at how engaged and immersed I was in the world, in the narrative, and how I wanted to learn more. I wanted to uncover this dark mystery, no matter how disturbing or gruesome it turned out to be. And then there's the excellent moments of stealth and evasion against one of the many large and intimidating inhabitants of this world, having you run for your life, maneuver around the environment, carefully sneak and hide and platform around your environment, while always keeping your eye on the lumbering monsters patrolling around. And I finally gotta give mention to some of the amazing gameplay and visual set pieces in Little Nightmares. There were certain chase sequences, story moments, and environmental showcases that really blew me away. Despite the size of our protagonist, and despite the name of the game being Little Nightmares, this game is anything but little. If anything, it's a big accomplishment, and easily one of my favorite video games of 2017. Number 5. The Evil Within 2. I was immensely disappointed with the first The Evil Within back in 2014. Although the game has slowly grown on me over time and I've come to like it, the first minute, the first hour of that game never really truly hooked me. And I can't say that I enjoyed the experience from beginning to end. With The Evil Within 2, however, with the sequel, I loved it and I enjoyed it from start to finish. Unlike its predecessor, The Evil Within 2 has an actually comprehensive story, characters that are actually well developed and I came to care about, and one of the best, if not one of my favorite and most emotional and most hard-hitting and most memorable endings to a video game ever. The ending of The Evil Within 2 got me to cry, and there are very few video games that can do that to me. And while the improved story and characters are a major plus in my book, where The Evil Within 2 absolutely hits it out of the ballpark is with its presentation and gameplay. The Evil Within 2 is true survival horror. Despite giving you fun and powerful weapons to play with, a variety of useful and helpful gameplay mechanics, and just a ton of stuff to collect, craft, and upgrade, The Evil Within 2 never compromises its survival horror atmosphere and setting, with enemies and bosses that are truly disturbing, with how they look, how they move, how they sound, accompanied by tense, unnerving, and even sometimes epic soundtrack. But truly the piece de resistance are in the environmental set pieces, seeing as how the setting of the Evil Within games takes place within a world created by the mind. The game plays with that concept. You are in an environment, you are in a world where anything is possible, anything can be manipulated. This is a living nightmare. There are several moments brought to life by the game's villains that are truly creative and horrifying, but have a dark, twisted beauty to them. Another aspect and feature of The Evil Within 2 that really surprised me in how much I liked it and enjoyed it was the new open world, the town of Union, which was genuinely worth exploring every nook and cranny for resources, collectibles, secrets, unique combat encounters, and soaking in the creepy, otherworldly atmosphere of the town. And then there's the excellent gameplay that The Evil Within 2 offers, not only being a satisfying stealth game, giving you the tools and mechanics to avoid combat altogether or silently take out your opponents, to the actual third-person shooting combat, which I find gives the player just the right amount of power and vulnerability. Yes, the weapons feel great and powerful to use, but you have to make every shot count. Every wasted shot, wasted resources, wasted ammunition, and gives your enemy the chance to get the drop on you and take you down. Finding the right balance of making your enemies intimidating but fun to kill, and making The Evil Within 2 fun to play, yet still an intense and scary survival horror experience. I truly cannot express enough just how much The Evil Within 2 gets everything right. In being a memorable experience, in being an emotional experience, in being a rewarding gameplay experience. Not just through combat and stealth, but through actual progression, leveling up, unlocking new skills, upgrading weapons, finding brand new weapons, some of which you can miss out on if you don't play the side content, and the side content is even worthwhile, the side missions. The Evil Within 2 is just a great game, an absolutely great game. I'm so glad how much The Evil Within 2 has improved from its sequel and made its way to becoming one of my favorite games of 2017. Number 4. Wolfenstein 2 The New Colossus. Back in 2014, Wolfenstein The New Order was one of my favorite games of that year. And now in 2017, its sequel, Wolfenstein 2 The New Colossus, gets to join it as one of my favorite games of the year. The New Colossus continues where The New Order left off, both in story and in gameplay. We once again play as BJ Blazkowicz, and reunite with old characters from the first game while meeting some new ones. Continue to explore and learn about and tear down this unique fictional setting where the Nazis won World War II with advanced technology. And we continue to hack apart, shoot, and blow to pieces hordes of Nazis and robot Nazis, with the satisfying and creative and over-the-top first-person shooting dual-wielding mechanic, which has been upgraded from the first game, allowing you to dual-wield 2 different weapons in combination with one another, allowing for creative and chaotic and just downright fun gunplay. There is nothing else quite like holding the assault rifle in one hand and an automatic shotgun in the other. And the satisfying and brutal melee takedowns return, this time utilizing a hatchet for both stealth and melee close quarters takedowns. And then there's the new addition of gadgets halfway through the game, which allow for unique abilities, different tactics and gameplay options for maneuvering around your environment and engaging enemies. The overall gunplay and first-person shooting gameplay in the New Colossus is just as, if not more satisfying than in the New Order. But like its predecessor, the New Colossus also tells an emotionally charged, deep character-driven story. I felt immense joy reuniting with these characters again, and seeing them continue to grow and evolve and change as characters. BJ, Anya, Fergus, Wyatt, and just the whole cast of characters. It was fun to see the story have fun with these characters. Yes, the story gave them the emotional depth and weight to feel as if they're real people, but the game and the story also realized this is a crazy balls-to-the-wall, outrageous science fiction action shooter, so let's see how crazy we can get. I immensely enjoy the story and characters of the new Wolfenstein games. The New Colossus is also quite a looker in the visuals and graphics department, for the most part. While environments and special effects and lighting look spectacular, it still boggles my mind why the textures for the faces are absolutely awful. But that is only one of what are a few little gripes with what is, for the most part, a really well-crafted game and a really awesome single-player experience. And just like the New Order, the New Colossus maintains that look and that feel of what a video game would be like if it was made by Quentin Tarantino. And so, the latest entry in the Nazi slaughtering simulator that is Wolfenstein is once again one of my favorite games of the year. Number 3. Middle-earth: Shadow of War. Back in 2014, Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor was one of my favorite games of that year, and now in 2017, its sequel, Middle-earth: Shadow of War, gets to join it as one of my favorite games of the year. And just about every aspect and feature, from Shadow of Mordor to Shadow of War, has been refined, upgraded, and bigger and better than ever. From storytelling to set pieces to boss battles, to the graphics and visuals, to the combat and overall gameplay, to the now iconic and returning Nemesis system. Middle-earth: Shadow of War has so much in it, so much going on, that it's difficult for me to even decide where do I start off in describing Middle-earth: Shadow of War. Do I start with its improved storytelling from its predecessor, where protagonists Talion and Celebrimbor now have an interesting dynamic with one another? There's a new interesting and memorable cast of side characters, far more intimidating villains with the Ringwraiths, the Nazgul, and the story is actually willing to take risks and have unique plot twists that change the entirety of the game, and provide and put the player in interesting scenarios. Or perhaps do I start off with the improved gameplay, with far more fluid and responsive controls from everything to movement to melee combat to stealth, and with the hefty and meaningful plethora of new additions in abilities and upgrades, giving you so many tactics and options in combat and just making you look and feel like a total overpowered badass. Stealth and melee combat is just as satisfying, if not more satisfying, in Shadow of War than it was in Shadow of Mordor? Or do I start with the most infamous mechanic, the most infamous feature, the most talked about part and aspect of the Middle-earth Shadow of games, the Nemesis system and the orcs it generates? The Nemesis system 2.0 in Shadow of War is so jam-packed with variety and variables that no two players playing this game will have the exact same experience at all. Every play session I have had with Shadow of War, I have encountered new and unique varied orcs, with unique physical and personality traits, that always keeps combat fresh and exciting, and have you, the player, form your own unique bonds and relationships with these in-game randomly generated characters. The Nemesis system really just adds so much to the experience. So Shadow of War already has all of that going for it, all of which I could talk for hours upon hours about in depth. But Shadow of War has even more than that, with the all-new fortress sieges that really truly provide the epic look and feel of an all-out war and assault. And then there's the addition of dragons, actual dragons you get to take control of and fly and fight and kill and dragons. Oh, and then there's the new loot and gear system that allows you to customize Talion, both cosmetically and statistically. And then there's the fighting pits where you get to put two orcs against each other to a fight to the death. And there's just so much more. The multiple brand new open world environments to explore, building and customizing your own orc army, discovering and reading up on all of the Lord of the Rings lore that permeates throughout the entire game, and I can keep going on and on and on why Shadow of War is a true successor to Shadow of Mordor in almost every single way possible. It's become one of my favorite games of all time alongside its predecessor. And finally, of course, just like in 2014 with Shadow of Mordor, in 2017 its sequel, Shadow of War, has become one of my favorite games of the year. Number 2. For Honor. Knights versus Vikings versus Samurai. Need I say more? It's a childhood dream come true. But outside of its awe-inspiring premise and setting, the paramount reason I love For Honor is its melee combat gameplay, meaningfully combining and meshing the gameplay mechanics of hack-and-slash video games and fighting video games to create a truly unique melee combat experience. The art of battle, as it's called, when you enter your combat stance and choose the position and direction of your weapon, whether you will be attacking or blocking from left, right, or above. This mechanic and feature alone is deep and dynamic, but you add on top of that a whole roster of different playable characters from each faction with their own unique movesets and combos and abilities and statistics, then oh boy, there's a lot to get invested in here. And those different playable characters, the heroes of For Honor, the 18 in total you get to choose from and play as, are all unique, varied, and provide a wide array of different playstyles, as well as entertaining and charming personalities. From the Warden to the Valkyrie to the Shinobi, from the Orochi to the Raider to the Lawbringer. These different playable heroes allow for so much replayability, dynamic, multi-layered combat against one another, and on a more simplistic level, they all just look really damn cool. Now, while the main appeal and meat of the content of For Honor is in its multiplayer, I immensely enjoyed and was surprised by the story mode, the single-player campaign, which can also be completely played in co-op. While the story and narrative isn't anything original, and most of the cast of characters lack meaningful character development, what made the single player worthwhile to me was the unique set pieces and gameplay provided by the story mode, and its driving force, its villain, the Warlord Apollyon, who has become one of my favorite video game villains of all time. She is intimidating, well developed and fleshed out. She is the heart and soul and the face of For Honor's story. But For Honor's multiplayer is where I have spent the majority of my time and had the majority of my fun. The large pick of different multiplayer maps are all excellent, both visually and in level design. And there's a nice variety of game modes of varying team sizes, objectives, and the presence of AI soldier minions. One aspect of feature of For Honor, however, that earns massive respect from me is the full inclusion and integration of bot support. If you want to play For Honor's multiplayer content strictly solo or PvE, you can. And I appreciate that so damn much. I also surprisingly really like For Honor's progression system. There's always something to shoot for, something to grind for. Whether it's a new cosmetic, a new piece of gear, weapons and armor, a new animation, an emote, a brutally violent execution. I've put hundreds of hours into For Honor and I still have tons of stuff to unlock and progress for. It really is immensely satisfying to put in the time and effort and take your basic vanilla character and upgrade them to this. Lastly, I really can't express enough how much I enjoy the gameplay of For Honor. Its dynamic melee combat of switching from third-person hack and slash, laying waste to small armies of enemy minion soldiers, to instantly switching to the 1v1 dueling fighting mechanics, with all the different flashy combos and moves of all the different characters, the over-the-top and bloody execution animations reminiscent of Mortal Kombat, and I just love this game. I love For Honor. It is so much fun to play. And why For Honor, for me, has not only become one of my favorite video games of all time, but my second favorite video game of 2017. And my number one video game of 2017 is Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Over 3 years ago, back in August of 2014, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice was announced. And up until the game finally released in 2017, I had been meticulously and obsessively following the development of this game and anticipating finally being able to get my hands on it and play it. I have watched every single development diary video from the developer Ninja Theory. I've seen their ups and downs, their conceptualizing, their achievements, and seeing them bring this game, bring this vision, bring this idea to life. I had been waiting since August of 2014. I had been waiting 3 years to play Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. And you know what? It was worth the wait. It was worth every second of every day, of every month, of every year waiting for this eventual masterpiece. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice is a once-in-a-lifetime video game, and it's rare that I emphasize this, but I say to you, I say to one and all, you must play Hellblade. Hellblade is evidence and proof of what I have been saying about video games for years, that they are unique from every other form of storytelling and can provide you with a truly unique, one-of-a-kind experience that you can't get, that you can't have, that you can't be a part of anywhere else. Main protagonist and playable character Senua, after playing and beating the game in full and replaying it multiple times, Senua is more than just a video game character. I empathize and I care for her as a real, living, breathing person. The simply phenomenal performance of actress who is actually Ninja Theory's video editor, Melina Jurgensen, adds these levels of believability and depth and emotion to this character, to Senua, that makes her one of the most, there's no other word for it, real characters that a video game has ever brought to life, has ever presented to us. And Senua's story, her hellish journey of battling her inner demons, reliving her memories, accepting who she is, and so much more. This story, this journey had me so invested. More invested than I think I've ever been in any story in any video game. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice got me to care. It got me to care so damn much. Truly an emotional roller coaster ride. But next to that, next to the excellent main character and even side characters, and next to the fantastically told story, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice also possesses some of the best damn production value I've ever seen in a video game. What Ninja Fury were able to pull off with Hellblade is truly awe-inspiring. The graphics, the visuals, the audio. It's all perfect, absolutely perfect. The texture work is so meticulous and detailed. The environments and the characters look alive. They look real. The lighting is masterfully done, perfectly emphasizing the atmosphere and the mood of any particular scene or location. And the audio, don't even get me started on the audio, just the quality of the audio in general, from every single sound effect to the absolutely haunting and breathtaking music. But alongside the excellent story and characters, and alongside the jaw-dropping production value, is fairly solid and satisfying gameplay, with clever and creative puzzles to solve, utilizing unique mechanics. And they all make sense within the context of Senua's character, and the third-person hack-and-slash combat gameplay, while on the outset looks simplistic and basic, adds just enough mechanics for some much needed depth and variety in the combat, giving you the tools and abilities necessary to take on multiple enemies at once, take on multiple different enemy types with different strengths and weaknesses at once, while to top it all off, it just looks and feels good. Melee strikes and hits with your sword have real impact. They look and sound like you're doing real damage to your foes. On top of that, the combat is purely skill-based. You live or die, you succeed or fail at the combat scenarios based on how well and how skilled you are at the game's combat mechanics. So when you overcome these intimidating looking foes and the epic boss battles of Hellblade, it feels like a genuine victory, a genuine triumph. The way Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice is able to elicit emotion through every aspect, through every feature of its being, through its gameplay, its graphics, its story, its music, through its masterful audio work, through everything. The way Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice is able to make you feel, to make you care. It's just so powerful. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice is a masterwork, a masterpiece of a video game. This, that, and so much more. I could go into depth, hours upon hours of why and how I love Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, why it has become one of my favorite video games of all time, and why it is my #1 video game of 2017.